let's give a virtual applause to our wonderful guest speaker and friend, Matthias Schranner. Over to you. But you got to unmute yourself. I mean, I can speak on your behalf, but I'd rather...
you know everything. This is what I expected from you.
I've read your book.
Okay. So yeah, this is why I thought you will take over. So thank you, Dan, for inviting me and for introducing me. Yeah, I'm a former hostage negotiator, and I negotiated with hostage takers, bank robbers, suicide attempts. And you may ask yourself, I became a member of this negotiation task force. I started my career as a regular police officer in Munich, and after a couple of years, I joined the drug enforcement agency. So I worked and lived undercover, negotiating with drug dealers, buying drugs, selling drugs. Later on, I would like to explain you the biggest danger in working undercover. After 6 years, I went to university, and after studying, I went back to the Ministry of Interior and became a member of this negotiation task force. So for 6 years, I negotiated with hostage takers, bank robbers, and then I translated this knowledge, the experience from the FBI, from law enforcement to business and politics. And for 15 years now, I have been working as a consultant for difficult negotiations. And we support global companies, we support startups in their exit negotiations, and we negotiate right now political parties in Berlin, because as you may know, tough negotiations are going on in Berlin right now. So what I would like to show you, I would like to show you the four most important elements of a negotiation. I will go very quickly through these elements because, as Dan mentioned it, it should be interactive, and I don't want to come up with a lot of theory. I just want to summarize the most important elements of a negotiation, especially for startups, because we supported some startups in their negotiations, and we see a lot of mistakes, because for most of you guys, a tough negotiation is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. For investors, it's daily business. And it's so important that we negotiate on eye level, and that we do have the same understanding of a negotiation. And this is why we developed our so-called Schranner Concept, which is based on some elements which I would like to share and to show to you. So we are at the Schranner Negotiation Institute. We are based in Zurich. We have offices in New York City, in Hong Kong, and in Dubai. And we support our clients globally with the so-called Schranner Concept, based on 4 elements: preparation, opening, leadership, and escalation. So preparation, obviously, this is what you need to do prior to a negotiation. And what we see in almost every negotiation, that the preparation is let's say, it's focused on content, not on strategy and tactics. The most managers, most companies, they start a negotiation with a brilliant content preparation without any thoughts about strategy and tactics. Opening, so what to do, how should you act at the beginning of a negotiation? Should you wait a little bit? Should you wait for the first proposal? You should come up with a proposal. This is what I would like to show you. Leadership, I would like to explain the so-called FBI model, because at the police department or at the FBI, we negotiated with one model for a team structure, because in a crisis negotiation, in a very tough negotiation with high pressure, a lot of emotions, you need a clear structure. And I would like to give you some advice how to negotiate in this social escalation, in this deadlock situation. And as you can see, the escalation is a part of our negotiation process. So we do not avoid the escalation, because from our understanding, it's possibly the most important element. So, because what is the big difference between negotiations in politics and business and police negotiations? In business or in politics, you negotiate, and at the end, you end up in the so-called deadlock situation. So I have no idea what to do. At the police department, you start a negotiation, every negotiation in a deadlock. Because if you arrive as a hostage negotiator at the location, the situation is definitely in a deadlock. Like if I don't get the getaway car, I will kill the first hostage. And what I have learned in my life, the escalation is an unbelievable possibility. It's an opportunity to create a new negotiation. And this is what I have learned. The escalation is important. Do not avoid it. If you know how to handle it, then you can negotiate. And so I would like to give you the most important elements about what we have seen in some negotiations, what you need to know. And let's start with a very brief overview about the preparation. So we had a really tough negotiation. Let's say you want to negotiate against us, against our institute. If you would ask, let's say, for a workshop, an internal workshop, you could talk to Fabio. Fabio, he's on this call. He's responsible for this program. Let's say you ask Fabio, hey Fabio, we want to book a seminar at your institute. We would like to, we would like to get a proposal. So we do have a target because we have a clear understanding of our pricing model. Let's say I want 100 for a one-day workshop. This is just an example, of course. Don't take a screenshot, don't take notes. It's just an example. So let's say we start with 100. Do you think there's a room for negotiation? Do you think there's a possibility to negotiate this amount with Fabio? Do you think, well, there might be an opportunity to get this workshop for 99 or 90 or 60, whatever? You don't know it and you can't know it. So what we advise our clients during the preparation phase, do not negotiate with yourself because you have no idea what's going on the other side. You have no idea what they want. Never negotiate with yourself. Do not prepare during your preparation what could be important to your counterpart. What could be their target? What could be their, let's say, red line? Don't do it. Prepare your negotiation. Prepare what you want. Do not think about the opponent party at the beginning. So let's say we want 100. And let's say there is some a room for negotiation, 60. So here's the question. Do we have to tell you our walkaway position? Should we say, well, 100 would be great, but 60 would be also okay? Definitely not. Are you allowed to ask Fabio, like, hey, Fabio, what is your walkaway position? And I'm sure he will not tell you our walkaway position. You would force him to lie. So very important, never ask your opponent party about their walkaway position. Never ask for a last and final or for a best and final price. Because if you ask for it, you will get definitely not the right answer. What you need to prepare your target and you need to prepare your walkaway position. Very important. Again, your maximum target should be big, should be extremely high. Because if you start with a very small target, then you have no room for the upcoming negotiation. And the most difficult, the most critical element in a negotiation is to define the so-called walkaway position. Because if you walk away, then you have to face negative consequences. And most companies, most managers, they try to avoid this discussion. They try to avoid to commit on an internal walkaway position, and that's wrong. Because if you're in a negotiation, if you don't have this willingness to walk away, then you can't negotiate. So you need the willingness to walk away, and it should be based on your preparation. Walk away should not be based on emotions because you are upset or getting angry or disappointed. If you walk away, it needs to be part of your master plan. So in summary, you need to define your target, maximum target, and you need to find your walkaway position in writing. And you're not allowed to renegotiate your walkaway position internally under pressure. Because if you start to renegotiate, then you confuse your negotiation partner. Then they see there is no willingness to walk away, and then they go after you, then it becomes a very aggressive negotiation. At the end of the day, there are just two elements, agreement or the so-called disagreement. So based on our experience, if you walk away, then it's a decision. It's not a failure. So you're not a loser if you walk away. It's based on your decision. If you say, okay, if I don't accept this price or these terms or whatever, then I walk away, then you end up in this disagreement. If you end up in a disagreement, also keep in mind, it's still a negotiation. We are still respectful, we're always friendly, and we try to keep a very nice tone. It's a decision. And if you're interested, I could show you later on how to come back after this disagreement. Because a disagreement, it's not the end of the world. No one will die. It's just a tactic. What we see, and this is really new, and I would like to share this chart with you, because you need, in addition to your target, in your world, in your startup world, you need the reason why you want to negotiate and why do you want to achieve such a high target. So as you can see, there are some elements you can focus on. It needs to be a reason. Money, as you can see here, is not a reason. Being or becoming a rich man or woman is not a reason. So money should never be the reason for you to negotiate. You need a reason to make or to create a better world. And this is what you need to include in your negotiation strategy. You need to make sure that you fight for something which is definitely good. And as Dan mentioned it at the beginning, you're always on the right side of the negotiation table. So keep in mind, it needs to be a reason. Otherwise, your team will not follow you through this deadlock situation. They will not support you under pressure. Number two is the opening. So there are two big philosophies in negotiation. Number one is it's called low-hanging fruits first. So you talk about low-hanging fruits, you talk about the easy stuff before you start to talk about the real stumbling blocks. It's good if you start with low-hanging fruits. So you go through your garden, you collect low-hanging fruits. You do have this as a big opportunity to create a very positive atmosphere. You create this feeling, yeah, we're in the same boat here. We have a lot of common interest. If you start with low-hanging fruits, you also have a big disadvantage because you need to negotiate stumbling blocks at the end of your negotiation, and then you end up in this so-called take it or leave it discussion. There is a better way to do it. It's called put the fish on the table. Putting the fish on the table means that you tell your negotiation partner what you want, loud and clear, in a respectful way. However, you need to say what you want. And this is also an observation in the startup world, that you don't know what you want and that you don't communicate what you want, that you move around low-hanging fruits, and your negotiation partners, investors, for example, they know exactly what they want and they tell you your fish. And then you're in a defensive position, then you have to justify your position, and then you have to react on the fish of your negotiation partner. Based on our experience, it's definitely better to put the fish on the table at the starting point. Don't wait for them. Don't wait what they want. Tell them what you want. Always nice, always respectful. However, always very clear. Put the fish on the table, because if you hide the fish below the table, it starts to smell, and then it's even more difficult to come up with a fish at the end of a negotiation process. After putting the fish on the table, you start to negotiate the fish. So you create some movement, you create some cooperation, because you want an agreement. And this is why we need to focus on how to lead a negotiation, how to lead your team. And I would like to show you our principle in the leadership. So how to lead a negotiation and who should be the leader in your team. I mentioned before, I'm a former hostage negotiator. Why did they invite me to this negotiation team? Because I worked undercover for 6 years, drug enforcement. So I would like to ask you, and we can discuss this in detail. What do you think, what is the biggest danger in working undercover? What is the biggest, let's say, the biggest difficulty in working undercover for 6 years? You might say, well, it's to be uncovered. You might say that you get, let's say, addicted, but this was not my issue. I had a different issue. I started to understand the other side. I started to understand their wording, their philosophy, their way of doing things. Because if you negotiate in the drug business, there's a completely different understanding of fairness, for example. Because they can't sue you, they can't call a lawyer, they can't go to court. They have different options, and you need to know these options. And I started to understand the other side, and I would say from a today's perspective, after, would say, 3 years, I started to understand their business. I changed the side because I was thinking like a drug dealer. I was talking like a drug dealer. And after 4.5 years, I started to plan my own big deal because I knew exactly how to do it. And so I switched sides. In the police, we call it you go native. So you become a member of the other side. If you don't believe it, there's a great movie on Netflix. I'm sure you know it, Breaking Bad. There you can see a school teacher is becoming the most dangerous drug dealer in America. So it was not that bad in my case, but however, I changed side as well. This is why they asked me to step out and to join the negotiation task force, because I was able to talk to criminals. I understood their wording, I understood their language, I understood their philosophy of doing things. So I became a member of this crisis team. We call it the FBI business team, to translate our experience to business. So I became a so-called negotiator. As a negotiator, I was responsible for the negotiation with a hostage taker. And I had always a commander in my team, because under pressure, you make mistakes. And you can imagine the pressure in such a negotiation. If someone is increasing the pressure by saying, okay, if I don't get it now, I will kill first hostage. And under pressure, you end up in the so-called tunnel vision. So you don't see what's going around you. You're so focused on the danger. You're so focused on this stressful situation. You can't read between the lines. You can't figure out different options because you're so focused. This is why you do have a commander in your team. A commander is supporting you, is giving you some signals, or is asking for a timeout, and then you can use him or her as a counterpart, as a sounding board. And as you can see, the decision maker is not in the room, because if a decision maker is in the room, then they will be emotionally involved, which would be definitely wrong. So let's translate this knowledge and experience to your world. If you negotiate for your company, if you are the founder, if you are the owner, the CEO of your company, do not negotiate, because your job is to make decisions, strategic decisions. Your job is not to sit at the table and to negotiate a price. And this is what we have seen very often, that the founder is negotiating the price for his or her company. And this is it always ends up in a disaster, because you're so emotionally involved. It's your baby. you created your company, and it's so easy to manipulate you. It's so easy to get you emotionally attached. So here's my advice. If you have to face a tough negotiation like the exit, like finding or negotiating with an investor, do not negotiate by yourself. Try to set up a negotiation team. You need a negotiator and you need a commander. Negotiator should be conflict oriented, not relationship oriented, because this is also one of our key findings at our institute, that most companies, they send the wrong people to the negotiation table. They always send the one with the best relationship. And this is what we see. It's amazing. It's insane that they send, let's say, the key account manager to a price negotiation, and the key account manager went native already because he started to understand the other side. And then he's defending the position of the client in the price negotiation, which is insane. So what to do? Set up a team. Try to find a good negotiator. A good negotiator is conflict oriented, not relationship oriented. Because if you're relationship oriented, you always give in because you want to be respected, you want to be loved. There's one quote at our institute, which is, if you want to be loved, buy yourself a dog, but do not negotiate. Yeah? You need also a commander. A commander is responsible for the big picture, to support the negotiator under pressure, to read between the lines in a negotiation. To come up with the big picture, always talking about common interests again, summarizing it, making sure you're on the right track. Decision maker, as you can see, is not part of the negotiation team. Decision maker, set up a team and stay out. If you're in, you will make mistakes. I'm a founder as well. I created my own company, our institute here in Zurich, and I'm definitely a professional negotiator. But there's a big bug. If I negotiate for my own company, I will end up in a disaster. This is why I'm not allowed to negotiate a price, for example. My team is negotiating everything. I never step in. I never negotiate my fee for a speech, for example, because I would be emotionally involved. And what we also need, we need to focus on the escalation. A very brief example. Most people, if they don't get what they want, they come up with a threat. They talk about negative consequences. If you come up with a threat, you will receive a counter threat. And this is not a negotiation anymore. Then it's a power play. And then it's about power. It's not about finding a solution. So what to do? If you don't get what you want, do not threaten your opponent. Do not come up with this negative consequence. What you need to do, you need to talk, or you should use a warning. A warning means, let's find a solution. So what is the difference? Let's say I'm a hostage negotiator. I talk to my hostage taker, telling him, dear hostage taker, I am sure you have seen the snipers. If you don't leave the building right now, I will tell the snipers to kill you. Obviously, this is a threat because I told him I will act against you with negative consequences. So what is a warning? Warning means, dear hostage taker, I'm sure you have seen the snipers. We are in the same situation here because our responsibility is to find a solution, to reach an agreement. What I know based on my previous experience, if we don't send a positive signal to our headquarters, they will take over the lead. This is why, what can we do to reach an agreement here? It's completely different. There's also a sniper on the roof, but I present myself as someone who can help my negotiation partner to reach an agreement. So I present myself as someone who is a problem solver. I'm not the problem. And this is very important. If you don't get what you want, never present yourself as a problem. You need to solve the problem. However, to solve a problem, you need to create a problem. And this is why, yes, you need a sniper in a negotiation. There are always negative consequences. You need to talk about negative consequences for both parties, not for the other party. This was a very brief overview about the most important elements of a negotiation. And I'm more than happy to answer all your questions. Dan, now the floor is yours again.
Amazing as always. I mean, I have heard you speak for years now in different areas, and there's always new thoughts. Quick yes or no, Matthias. It is good to empathize with who you're negotiating with. Yes or no?
That's difficult. Because most people, they misunderstand the importance of empathy in a negotiation. So what is empathy? Empathy means I understand you. But there are two elements. There is the situation and there is the feeling. So if I tell, let's say, a hostage taker, dear hostage taker, I understand you, then he would kill the first hostage, because this is a personal attack, because he would say, come on, you don't understand me because you never took a hostage before. So what I can do, I could say, well, if I understand you correctly, dear hostage taker, I get the impression that you're disappointed. I know this feeling of being disappointed. So if you show empathy, make sure you talk about feelings, not about the situation, because the situation is unique, which you cannot understand. What you can understand is the feeling.
Yes.
If you don't believe me, try it at home.
Yes. The reason I ask is you learned your negotiations dealing with drug dealers. I learned my negotiations haggling for gifts to buy my family in the Medina in Morocco. The Medina is the old market. And so they don't have price tags on items. They just make up a number based on how you dress. So if I dress well, they think I'm richer and they just come up with a number. And then I have to negotiate a price. So empathy comes in not with the situation, because you're right. I do not know their story. I do not know their past. But I connect on areas that so I will say, I want to buy this for my mother. And then we build a connection on the fact that they also have a mother and maybe a fond relationship with their mother. For me as an Indian, Moroccans love Indian culture. So I'll say, like, you know, my mom, she's an amazing Indian mom. She cooks amazing food. She wears beautiful clothes. So they start building into my story. And we have a mutual contact, which is mothers or something that is a positive association. So I'm actually removing myself. It's not, I want this price. It's more like, don't you love your mom enough to give it to me at this price, is the line I go down. Because you're right, I don't know their background. I don't know their family situation. I don't know what they need the money for, but I know he loves his mother. And so, and usually those gifts are not for my mother, they're for someone else, but I'll use the line anyway. So that's why I was wondering. We do have some questions coming in. I have other questions as well, but I want to honor the questions from the 100 or so people in this room. So let's start. Marcus says, how would escalation work in VC negotiations?
Well, escalation means that you come up with a warning. If possible, you could come up with a warning very early by saying, okay, we are in the same situation here. Our responsibility is to reach an agreement. If we don't get this agreement by Friday, 12 o'clock, my stakeholders, my committee, whatever, they will ask critical questions, which we need to avoid. So here's what we do. And so we're always in the same boat, but there's always a sniper on the roof. There's always let's say, a steering board. There are stakeholders. Very important, it needs to be an internal process, not an individual. Because if I say, you know, Mr. Miller will ask some critical question, then they, okay, let's call Mr. Miller. So it needs to be a process, not an individual.
So the difference between a threat and an escalation, a threat would be, I have other VCs interested. So if you don't act, I will go to the other VC.
Exactly. I'm the problem. Then I present myself as a problem, and no one wants to be threatened.
Right. An escalation is, I really want this to happen, but it will be out of my control, and then I cannot control the process. Right now, it's in my control, and I'd like to see this happen by Friday. You know,
because I want to help you.
Right.
I'm here to help you. I'm your friend.
Yes. All
we
right.
both have a mother.
Another Daniel Neves. This is his question. He says, where should the CEO be? As a commander, decision maker? What's their role?
Decision maker. So a CEO is a decision maker. He or she is responsible to make decisions, to say, okay, what is our target and what is our walkaway position? So this is the decision which need to be, so you need to discuss it internally, and then the decision maker, CEO, is telling the negotiation team, so here's what we want. So this would be great, this would be fantastic, and here's your license to negotiate, you need to walk away. Then they have to set up the negotiation team, always two, just a commander and a negotiator, possibly a third one, an expert from legal department, for example, but not more. I just read the news because in this ongoing negotiation in Berlin, SPD, they just announced the negotiation team with more than 10 people. So they go by bus to the negotiation.
Wow. Nice. Jan has a related question. He says, when you're an early stage startup, you know, just only founders, should you hire someone external to do the
negotiation? Might be an option. Could be also someone from another startup, because usually you don't have the money to hire a really experienced negotiator. So what I've experienced, even if a student at our institute is negotiating my price for a fee for a workshop, for example, they get a higher price than myself, because they are not emotionally attached. They have no idea about the numbers, and they have no idea who they are talking to. Yeah? So, you know, if I talk to a CEO from a big company, I might be a little bit like impressed. Yeah? But the students, they are not impressed. They just called them. Yeah? So I can promise you that everyone in your company is a better negotiator than you.
Wow. Philip has a question about selecting this person. So if we go down the line of delegating to someone else, whether hiring or someone internal, Philip's question is, how do you select the people negotiating for you? So what qualifications do they need to have? And the sub question is, how do you fully trust them to work in your interests? I guess they're kind of connected. What are you looking for in a good negotiator? Okay.
Number one, introvert, someone who is not really, they don't want to talk. Yeah. Because if someone is very extrovert, they always want to talk, they always want to explain everything, they always come up with a lot of arguments, they justify every demand because they need to talk. If they're silent, they can't, it's so stressful for them to stay calm in a critical situation. So from my perspective, if you're introvert, that's great. If you love conflicts, so if someone, for example, is traveling around the world, is backpacking in India, is, you know, if you have two colleagues, one is going to Marbella, to Marbella with his family, or the other one is backpacking in India, choose the one from India, because if someone in his private life is interested in this challenge, in making new experiences, these guys are brilliant for negotiations, and you need to train them. So there are videos, books, whatever, seminars, workshops, of course. You need to train them because they need some confidence. How can you trust them? You don't have to trust them. You have to give them a license to negotiate, which you say, okay, this is your target and this is your walkaway position. If you don't reach your target, then you need to walk away. What you should not do, you should not say, this is your walkaway position, but you can call me at any time. Then you're in automatically. Yeah? Then they need to walk away, and then you restart the negotiation, possibly with a new scope.
Talking about training that you mentioned, it's probably a good time now to say that Matthias Schranner and Fabio are very kind to offer one of you a free training. And this is going to be based on how you do your negotiations in the Q&A in Berlin. So just to let you know, all the learning today, as well as the next couple of weeks, will be put to the test live when we do the Q&As in Berlin. You have a 5-minute Q&A after your pitch, and Fabio will be there in person, I think. And so he will make that decision as to who deserves to take it to the next level. So they do have a training program. Fabio, if you want to say a few words after about it and what's involved, welcome to do so. But yes, to add on to what you were saying there, Matthias, one of the things that I find quite helpful in a negotiation, because I do a lot of talking and I'm quite extroverted, but therefore, when I stop talking, it's quite powerful. And I also find being comfortable with pauses. As a moderator, I fill in all the pauses, but when I'm negotiating, I actually sit in what is awkward pause. And I find it makes the other person nervous and a little bit more receptive. So I say enough and I wait. And it's very hard for me and for the other person to not fill in the pause, but I actually find it's quite powerful. Would you agree that if you own the gap, is what I call it, owning the gap of the silence, that you're in a better position than just talking and filling it up?
I would like to separate my answer into two answers. Number one, I don't believe you're extrovert.
I'm an introvert.
Yes. You're introvert, yeah. The second one is this pause. It's a technique which you can learn. Yeah. So what we do, what we teach our clients is that you need one word to control yourself. Yeah. You know our magic word, which is difficult. So if you have no idea what to do, just being silent is so complicated for so difficult for so many people. So this is better to say one word to control yourself. And in difficult negotiations, you know, with a lot of pressure and emotions, you can't come up with a sophisticated sentence. You need just one word. So it's difficult. So Dan, I need you, and I need a better price, and you're insane. And so I accusing Dan, pang, pang, pang. And then if he's just silent, I might think, I need to accuse him more aggressive. But if you would say, that's difficult, then I stop, because then I'm shocked, I'm surprised, and then you got them. So just say difficult and count to 3. Wait a little bit, calm it down, and then they, what the hell is difficult? And then you say, don't explain it.
Yes.
just wait, and then it's easy. Yeah. It's
that.
fun. A negotiation is fun.
It's a game.
It's a game. It's a game.
Florian and Avar have similar questions. I saw another one earlier as well. When it comes to investors and universities, where it seems that they have more power and leverage than you do, so you look like the smaller entity, and also where they may not understand your technology or your position, how do you negotiate with such parties?
Okay, so number one, you should never negotiate with yourself, because if you negotiate with yourself, you always will come up with the same result, which is you're in a very weak position. So if you believe you're in a weak position, that the power is on the other side, then you negotiated with yourself. So you made a mistake. From our perspective, a negotiation is always, I need you and they need you. If there wouldn't be any dependency, there wouldn't be a negotiation. So you need them and they need you. This is the starting point. There is no stronger or weaker position in negotiation. It's always on eye level. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a negotiation. Because if I would be in a better position, I wouldn't negotiate. I would just tell you what to do. Yeah. So it's an order, but not a negotiation. And so if you start a negotiation, they need you and you need them. That's it. Don't think about any other elements. Just do it. Start it. Get started.
That's really good. And I think for a lot of people in this group, you need to know that investors also just play a role. Money does not determine power. We live in a world where psychologically you might think their wallet is bigger than yours, therefore they're in power. Remember, they just have a role to play. They need to invest this money. They need the ideas, they need you, because they have a mandate to increase that money and to return to shareholders. So it is eye level, and a lot of you might think, oh, I'm just a student, and these are professionals. Professionals need the insights, the opinions, the perspective of students. You might think, oh, they are investors and I am poor. I'm on a student budget eating ramen noodles and pizza. No, they need your ideas. That's how they keep their money. So let's equalize a little bit here, and exactly what Matthias is saying, eye level, right?
Yeah. If I may add one more information, then the biggest fear for an investor is to miss an opportunity. So if their stakeholders are asking them, hey, there was this company you talked about and you didn't invest, and now we see it's a unicorn. Why didn't you choose this company? So the biggest pain for every investor is there's a big opportunity and they don't see the opportunity, they don't invest. And this is why you need a story and you need to be self-confident. Sorry.
That's good. Maybe one last question, and I'm curious if you will consider this a positive thing or negative thing. Matthias Müller asked this question, and he says, what happens if the venture capitalist in this situation offers more than what you were going to bargain for or ask for? Or more generally, what happens when you're negotiating and the other party gives you more? Do you play along and accept it? Or do you negotiate down, or what's the best approach to that point?
Okay. Then you negotiated with yourself before and you came up with a small target. So if you realize there's more, then you need to ask for a break. You need to do a recalculation, and then you have to say there was a misunderstanding. So there was a misunderstanding because your price was based on ABC and not on D. And now you just realized D is also a possibility, and this is why the price is different. So never say you made a mistake, never apologize. Just say, well, now I see there's a new situation, and the new situation needs a new evaluation, and this is why thank you for coming up with this great idea. Thank you for coming up with fresh ideas. My offered price was based on ABC, not on D. Now I'm more than happy to come up with the price, including D. Yeah.
I love it. That is really, really good advice. I hope that everyone who's been watching has benefited from what has just been hardly 20-25 minutes of content. Of course, Matthias Schranner has a book on this, multiple books on this. But the Schranner concept in particular is amazing. Can we just take a moment, Matthias, either you or Fabio, do you want to talk about this Apex Negotiator? Because I think this is something that people would be interested in, whether to win it or to buy it. Who would like to just take a minute or two to talk about this?
Fabio, it's your turn.
Sure thing. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It was great. Yeah, the Apex Negotiator, Dan already mentioned it. We created a new program just for young people, just like you and I, and for startup founders who really need to negotiate. And we thought that it's a great opportunity. And thanks, Martin, again, for the opportunity to share our knowledge with you. And we created the Apex Negotiator, the certification or prize. And yeah, Dan said it already. We will look at you, we will judge you, and one of you will be the lucky one to receive the Apex Negotiator Prize, which is an access to our Young Professional Negotiator program. And of course, we will create some kind of a hotline. So you will have like a special, yeah, you will be special in our eyes, and you can always call us if you need advice for your negotiations, and we will be there for you. And yeah, I hope we will meet each other in Berlin. And I'm happy to connect with you over the networking platform. I will register there today, so we can just chat a little bit. You can reach out to me, we can talk. And yeah, thank you again for the opportunity, and looking forward to seeing you all in Berlin.
Amazing. Fabio and Matthias, thank you not just for today, but for your continued interest in working with our amazing teams. Sven, if you could stop the pause for a second and pin my sweatshirt, because anyone who knows Dan Ram knows I only wear black, white, and red, and I've made an exception to wear purple representing stage 2. Now, I know you're looking at this hoodie since yesterday and going, oh, Dan, I just want your hoodie. Actually, not yesterday, the last time we met. Well, the good news is we got goodie bags coming for you. All right. So goodie bags to each of the teams. Make sure we've got your address and if we're sending it to the right person. And so we got this merch as well as a few other things happening. Sven, can you quickly share the screen as to what is coming next? So as you know, final pitch videos are due October the 15th. And then when we meet in Berlin, oh, I'm so excited about that. Not only do we have an EU commissioner in the house, but we have the founder of Plan A. We've got representatives from Microsoft, Siemens, McKinsey, Vodafone, and more. It just keeps growing and growing. It is going to be an incredible day, not just with external people we bring, but you will be at your prime, right? So with all the coaching and consulting, we firmly believe that you will be so ready to win, not just up to $500,000 in funding, not just the support of the Schranner Institute and others, but ultimately the pride, because this is a Europe-wide competition to see which university has the most entrepreneurial team. So your entire university is depending on you. So make sure that October 29th, you are at your best and ready to go. So can we stop the screen share for a second? Let me see all of you. Let's put this back into gallery view and remove any pins. And let's take a look. Okay, teams, it's lovely to see you. Please reach out to Martin and the rest of the stage 2 team that are here for you. Anything we can do to enhance your chances of winning, please let us know. Can we all give a quick, like silent, muted applause for Matthias and Fabio for being I can clap properly because you can actually hear my clap. I wonder, can any of you do this one? Have you been practicing this? When I was in school, I used to do this one instead of clapping. So thank you to Fabio. Thank you to Matthias. Thank you for giving us such good advice today. Thank you to all the coaches that were part of the Entrepreneurship Center and from McKinsey who were here all of today for many hours, helping your teams develop your pitches. We've got like 90 seconds. So does anyone have a burning question that is helpful for everybody to hear? You can quickly raise your hand if we have any. And then to the stage 2 team, have I forgotten anything or is there anything that needs to be said as we wrap this up? No? Okay, stage 2 team are doing this, so that's a good sign. I covered all my bases and all of you are smiling and looking at me, so it means that everything is crystal clear. So basically, final pitch decks, 15th. Make sure you're vaccinated and you got your flights or your trains or backpacking or whatever you're doing to get over here to Berlin. Berlin will, as always, be a city that inspires and excites. So we're going to have an amazing time in the city. The city will know that stage 2 has shown up, mostly because you'll all be wearing purple hoodies and we'll probably be the loudest club. But besides that, we're going to have a great time. We're going to learn a lot from each other and we're going to keep growing. So again, thank you for being a part of this journey. And Emmanuel, thank you for the double thumbs up. So to everybody here, have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Don't party too hard this weekend, and we'll see you very soon. So take care. Goodbye.